Hey everybody, it's Spear, and today we are going to break down the top 16 of the PPT Qualifier. For the guys who don't know, back this past weekend, PPG started their first PPT Qualifier. It's a long circuit where you get to participate over webcam on weekends over and over and over again until their finals invitational tournament. Usually these are really big prize pools, really fun events with a ton of really competitive players. So for what it's worth, guys, get on Facebook, check PPG, and make sure you keep your eyes open for their future Pro Play Tours. Some very great tournaments. But today, we're going to look at a meta breakdown. Just give us an idea of, hey, we're, a month and a bit into 1.5. People have been playing some stuff. Let's see where everything is settled and what the meta looks like now that everything has some time to push, especially since the rise of McDonald's control changes the landscape a little bit from what we were seeing at the beginning of the meta. Of course, guys, if you want to pick up any of the cards that we talk about in today's meta breakdown, I have to point you guys over to 3 Mana Inc., the best place to get your Digimon singles and sealed product guaranteed. And if you want to watch me pilot deck like the ones we talk about today, of course, I live stream on Twitch every Monday through Thursday and on weekends on tournaments, so link to that is in the description. But with that said, let's jump right into the breakdown. And this is what the top 16 was looking like. First off, congratulations to everyone who finished in the top 3. In the top 8, as well as overall the top 16, with Kevin Bester with yellow, red, or McDonald's control taking it down in first, Alex Michael taking down second, and Tyler Sear, very good friend of the channel, with Omni Red. So the top 16 breakdown, there's nothing too crazy here except for a very small piece of the pie, which actually did incredibly well this tournament. Top 16 comprised of 5 Rookie Rush, no surprise there. It's the low to the ground aggro deck that if it rolls well and your opponent doesn't find answers, it's going to find its spot. Rookie Rush being the dominant deck in top 16 since 1.5 and even arguably some good chunk of 1.0. So no surprise here by any real means. Red Omni, a 3 of Shine, a 3 of the most 50-50 decks there are, right? If you know how to pilot the deck well and you understand your matchups and you just decently, you don't need to draw great. If you draw decently well with these decks, you should be able to win out, assuming your opponent doesn't get insanely lucky or anything like that. But just to say, the very consistent strong decks of the format. Then we go off from the top 3 that we're used to seeing. We see Megazoo as a 2 of, and very interesting, these are Ragna Megazoos. So putting a lot of aggression. You don't see it too often, but it's very much a deck that playing against the right decks does a ton and can punish a lot of decks, especially since they run Magnadramons and a bunch of really great cards that can punish things like Rookie Rush or even a lot of the other meta decks if they don't find their answers quick enough. Because especially with Ragnar Lordmon in the deck, can apply a lot of pressure. Then there is yellow, red, or McDonald's control. This is the deck that Steven had piloted and that won. So Steven Rodriguez going undefeated during Swiss, closing out in 5th place, which is still a phenomenal finish, and Kevin, however, taking it down. So here we can really see the rise of McDonald's control, and it makes a lot of sense. First off, it's a control deck. It's a playstyle that a lot of players really need to adapting to. Control decks in any type of card game take a certain level of fighting, and there's a very specific way that you have to combat control decks that allow you to win those matchups. I think it's going to take a few weeks for the community in general to come together on how does this deck beat it, how does this deck beat it, how does this deck beat it. So right now it feels like a very oppressive deck, but control decks will always feel oppressive, especially when they run really hot and it feels like you don't really have the tech to be able to beat them. But more and more so as we see this deck do better and better moving forward, I 100% believe that more people are going to tech in cards that allow you to deal with this kind of deck as well as learn how to play against it. And to wrap up your top 16, we do have one Imperial Dramon, which is again a really good aggro deck. Rookie Rush with extra steps, some would say, but I actually really love the archetype just because it can really punch in and it can screw up combat math, right? When you think a Pilgrimon sitting on board, it's like you don't have to account for just 1 attack, you have to account for potentially 3 attacks, which is absolutely massive. So encompassing our top 16, the big, I wasn't expecting that of here are really the Mega Ragna Zoos, which are awesome deck lists, and we're gonna check those in a second, as well as McDonald's Control, which is a newcomer, and I think McDonald's Control here to stay. I think it's a very skill intensive deck, don't get me wrong, very skill intensive, but I think in the right hands is definitely a deck that will be able to consistently top and top and top, and I think it's something that we're going to keep seeing until set 4 wraps around, and then we'll just have to see from there. But I think it's a deck that isn't just the new hotness, but is probably here to stay. So with that top 16 breakdown, let's go ahead and just check. We'll just give a quick overview of every single one of the decks, you know, maybe some variations between the multiple ones before we go off and close out. So first we have Kevin Besta's McDonald's Control, and this is what this deck is trying to do, right? You're running a good number of Digimon, but they all accrue you value. Magna here being huge for recovery, Mistymon for removal, Seraphi being able to actually punch in your opponent, and then the 8 rookies, all of which can recover you health. The Magnas recover you health, and then the rest is removal. It's basically a removal deck that makes your opponent's security checks really annoying and abuses the way that security works in this game. The removal suite being things like Shield of the Just, Eden's Javelin, Pulse, which is like very specific to like Omnimon, or a security check Shine Greymon, for example. We have Gaia Force and Seventh Heavens to wrap it all around. There is some room for tech. We see the Greymons here, we see the Ankylomons, and I think there's a lot of variation in that kind of space in terms of if you want to lean more red or if you want to include some other tech. But in general, that's what this deck's trying to do. Punch you in the face with little random attacks with the bodies that you do play while recovering, and basically forcing you to not be able to deal with it because 1 for 1, this deck will beat you out. Then in second place, we have Alex Michaels' Shine Greymon. No surprise here, Shine Greymon being a formidable deck even in this meta. Here with the tech of Lightning Paw, always a great tech, especially nowadays when you consider how much rookie rush is around. You just want an extra removal suite. As far as the rookie lineup goes, we do see the Agumons. I know not all lists include that, so it's a very interesting tech. Allows you to draw deeper into your deck as well. And the rest of the list pretty standard here, except for the Kentorosmon and the Mastamon. Kentorosmon buying you extra turns when you need so, and then Mastamon just being a great burn card, especially against McDonald's Control. So no Slash Angemon, which minimizes the amount of board control that you need, but it allows you to play more tempo, which I really like as an option. Then we have Tyler, Sears Red Omnimon. The biggest tech here being War Greymon. We're going to see that more and more in red lists moving forward. Red Yellow is a known deck, and for a fact, I know that War Greymon is just better at dealing with the format right now. I myself in my own red list have been cutting blitzes more and more as I'm taking in more War Greymons, just to account for the fact that it's a matchup that you really need to do well in. Here in the ultimate slot, we do also see 2 Metal Graves, the security, and I've been loving this one. More and more, this deck really plays out like a Mega Rush deck. You're really turboing to your Megas and letting them do all the work, especially when you have a Tyre on board that gives them extra security checks, which is amazing, or just Greymons in the stack, and then you're really punching face, which is awesome. So that's really what this deck is feeling to do, I think, these days, and the Omnimons are just great removal options when you have to go over the top. Then we have Eric Abney's Rookie Rush deck. We already know what it does. I'll go out and say I absolutely hate this deck, but there's no doubt that it gets results. And if you need a deck that's able to push it all the way, this is definitely one that can do so. Here we have 3 Davises. I'm partial to 4, but 3, works out just fine. 4 Positron Lasers, which the card is absolutely cracked, prevents your opponent from cracking back. Checked on security can be really annoying. You can remove your opponent's best threat if need be, so very good card. Flower Cannon, again, there's a lot of really annoying security checks in this deck, and Flower Cannon as well as Hammer Spark really allow you to do that, and Hammer Spark just doing its thing of being able to choke your opponent out. And then we just have the rest of the rookie suite between the green stuff. Here, no green champions though. That is something to keep in mind. I know a lot of people really like running the 1-cost champions. They really help you in being able to mitigate against Volcanitramon and stuff like that. But here, opting out of it, at the end of the day, just being more low to the ground makes a lot of sense. Then we have Steven Rodriguez, McDonald's Control here, and the biggest thing for Steven here is running the Craniumons. They're tech that help you play against the mirror. During the mirror, at that point, it gets really annoying because your opponent needs to chain multiple cards. It's a 1 for 2, 1 for 3 some of the times. So it's just a card that will stick on board and really make it tougher for the mirror to be able to deal with it. It's a really good card. I like this card in the deck. Here, we don't see any Ankies, instead opting for more of the Greymon to give you more red to be able to play your red stuff out of your hand. And for the most part, it's just the rest of the stuff here. The 4 Salamons, the 4 Patamons. Previous builds used to not run 4 Patamons, but now we're just there to be able to consistently get our draws and just have more ways to be able to recover if need be, depending on the matchup. The rest of the stuff is stuff we've seen before. And then the rest of the removal suite is just good, typical for this build at this point. We have Jared Souza with a Shine Greymon. Here, the big thing being the use of Geo Greymon. And here, the difference really being, do you want one Geo Greymon for the better inheritables and, giving you more innate board control? Or would you rather instead have Repamon as just a quick play? I'm partial to Repamon here, but at the end of the day, it is all well and good running both kinds of Salamons here with their inheritables. And of course, you have Shakuamon just to be able to hedge against any aggro decks when they're not expecting it. Also, though, we have a really low tamer count, I think. We have running 9 tamers. It does seem like the variation is between 9 and 11. So here on the lower end, able to include more tech cards, only 1 Glorious Burst and a 7/7. The 7/7 here really helping out because Glorious Burst sucks to check in security, but 7 Heavens can actually do something, which is really, really important on that front. Then we have Zuhair. Is there any shocker? He's still running Shine here. The big tech here running 1 Sylphimon, which you can combo to be able to remove multiple megas. And that's really the joy, right? One of the things that can make Shine really annoying, or that can really annoy Shine, is when you have multiple megas on board, meaning that you need so many tamers to be able to kill. Here, the Sylphimon mean that, nope, you know what? That one's just going to cost me 1 card, which can really shift the momentum if your opponent's not expecting it and make all the difference when it comes to controlling the board. Otherwise, pretty standard list here, opting for a total of 10 tamers. That's the list. That's the number I adhere to when I play the deck. 2 Glorious Bursts, pretty standard from here on out. And opting to use the Repas instead of the Geo Greymons. Then we have Pedro Alves here on a Rookie Rush, leaning less on options than we've seen in previous lists. So here just 2 Positron Lasers, 2 Flower Cannons, 3 Davises like we've seen previously, 3 Puppets, and then the rest is pretty standard here. Nothing too crazy. Again, not running the Green Champion. So it really seems like Rookie Rush might be pivoting to just, forgetting those and just leaning on more of their blue cards, their beefy 5Ks. Probably makes sense. Instead of having the Evo to get around Volk, what about our hard cash just playing around Volk? Makes a lot of sense. And then we have Travis O'Halloran with Ragna Mega Zoo. So this is one of the most interesting lists out here. One of the big changes. And what you're really doing is you're pushing your Ragna pieces. So here we do run a red package between Skull Greymon as well as Phoenixmon, which allows us to go into our Ragnas. And then we do run the Bria Ludramons as well as the Durandamons. The rest of it just being, hey, we're going to go into Ragnar, we're going to punch face, or we can go to Alteres to wipe your board. Very much leaning on red-black for its removal suite. There's Millenniumon as well. So this is Megazoo, Ragnar, but there's Millenniumon, Alteres. You could almost call it just straight up level 7 turbo in a Megazoo package, which is really sweet. And some decks just can't deal with this. And the really cool tech here being the Infernomon. Just the ability to be able to chain multiple megas, get additional card draw, which is something this deck can struggle with, is pretty good in my front. No rookies, but you do run the 4 Kaiser Nails, which, especially if you're a level 7 kind of turbo deck like this is, really gives you an up in being able to put a ton of pressure. We're going to be able to replay Volks, replay Machine Dramons, a lot of our really great cards, or being able to just set up another level 6 to go into another Ragnar or another Alteres or another Omni. So I really like the deck here. I think it's really, really sweet. Then we have Trace Wayne's Rookie Rush deck. Here, teching in the Shakuamons, which is very interesting. Does add some good flexibility there in form of countering your other opponent. And we do see the Vegemons here. I'm not just talking out of my ass. I do know some Rookie Rushes do actually run Vegemon. So here we go. And also running the Vegemons, which gives you an additional jammer attacker, which the most annoying thing about Rookie Rush is when their attackers survive, because then that's effectively more time you need to spend clearing out their board. So here having more jamming attack makes a ton of sense. No Positron Lasers, however. Something to keep in mind for this version of the build. In 11th place, we have Eric Edlund with Red Omni here. Very standard list, leaning more on the Greymon aspect here, and that's what I'm saying. Some red list really pushing through for the Greymon line, and it makes a ton of sense given where McDonald's control is pushing the meta. On that front, because we're doing that, we are also using the Burning Lands Agumon, which do combo with the Greymon. We're running 4 War Greymons. So this deck, and I think this is really where red wants to go, leaning more like an OTK deck. We're going to clear all your security, and then if we need to, we'll just play our red Omni plan like we need to for other decks. But I really do think this punch in your face, extra security, clear everything we can and not clear any options is definitely where red needs to be at the moment in the meta. This deck very much representing where red needs to shift over to, and where I've been shifting my red decks over to in the format moving forward. Then we have Lewis Gordon's version of Ragna Megazoo. This one being a little bit more low to the ground, having more of a focus on Ragna than just kind of going level 7 turbo. So we do actually see rookies to give us additional card draw, all the card draw rookies. Either we're going to be drawing with Gabumon, or we're going to be using the inheritable on Demi Vmon with Vmon to be able to chip in some damage. And then on that front, way more level 5s. We see Groundramons, we see Skulls, we see Duramon, alongside being able to go into those chains into your level 7s. Lots of level 7s, don't get me wrong. We do run 4 Ragnas, 3 Omnis, and 4 Alteresses. But we do still have a Megazoo package in Machine Dramon, Magna. So you're still going to be giving your opponent a ton of memory, but you're going to be able to do so in a way that can be low to the ground if you need it to be. And here we still wrap up with Kaiser Nails and Kikaitis Breath as the removal of choice. Makes sense. Your eggs are blue to start off with, so why not? Then we have Justin Harris's Blue Imperial. I love Imperial Dramon here. Pretty standard list, nothing too crazy. You have your jamming champions, you have your low to the ground rookies, and you have your Davis to be able to accrue you more value. And the biggest thing here, the Metal Garurumon is very spicy, allows you to extend your board, and is one of the better cards actually to be playing when you're playing against, let's say, McDonald's Control. Because now you can attack while extending your board, which is very relevant because it means your opponent will have a harder time one-for-oneing you. So I really like that tech in the deck, and we are running 2 Omnimons to round out our top end. Then we have John Mendoza's Rookie Rush here, just standard blue-green. Here we are running the Vegemons, as well as 2 Positron Lasers, 3 Flower Cannons, 4 Hammer Sparks. So typical suite here, the variation being that, yeah, you run 1 Penguinmon, you're running 1 of the fish, I don't even know what he's called, and you are running a full suite of champions, 4 of Veggies, 4 of XVmons, and 4 Gorillas. And then we have Christian Obermiller with Blue Wait a minute. And to wrap up your top 16, we do have 1 Imperial Dramon. Okay, I know what happened. I think what happened is during the previous list, so if we actually, go back a couple, one more. This Imperial list at first glance, if you just look at the top end, looks like it's kind of a Rookie Rush list, right? Between the XVmons and the Vmons and all that jazz. So I think what happens is that when they made the top 16 cut, they misinterpreted this list as a Rookie Rush. So what it really is there are 2 Imperials in top 16 and only 4 Rookie Rushes. So we'll compensate for that, just something to keep in mind for the actual top 16 breakdown of this meta. So here we are taking Shakumon. It is a blue card, so you can run in your blue decks. So here hedging a little bit against a Rookie Rush, but otherwise a pretty standard list, but 4 Omnimons here. So really committing to the idea that we want to go into Omni after going into Imperial. It is extra removal, and it is a harder body to deal with, especially for something like Shine Greymon. If you can't kill your opponent right away, it can make their board states really annoying to account for. This does feel like it can be kind of a clogging hand, but at the end of the day, it does give you higher top end than what Imperial is usually able to, which I don't think anyone is complaining about. Then to wrap up our top 16, we have Matias Ramirez with Red Omni. Here, having no commitment to War Greymon, just being a very standard list with 4 Phoenixes, 2 Blitzes, and 1 Volk. So leaning a bit more low to the ground, making room for the 4th Greymon and the extra security checks. And the biggest thing I want to say here is definitely where Gaia Force is at. Gaia Force used to be an Insta 4 of the best security check in the game, but in Red Omni, it just ends up clogging your hand very often. For the most part, I've leaned on cutting it more and more as I'm going. So here, we're going to see a lot of variations between 2 Gaia Forces to 3 Gaia Forces. I think really is the realm where you want to play with it now instead of the full playset in red decks moving forward. But with that said, guys, that was the top 16 meta breakdown of the PPT qualifier. Of course, do keep note that the graph at the front at the beginning of the video was a little bit incorrect. It's actually 2 Imperial decks alongside 4 Rookie Rush decks. But besides that, very interesting meta shape up. I think the existence of McDonald's Control, and now that it has topped and won the event, is going to push more people to play the deck. We've seen spikes on all the cards as far as TCG players are concerned. I think that's going to really push the meta towards more of that, and I think now is going to really create a rotating format. I think Rookie Rush and a lot of mid-range plans struggle quite a bit against the deck, so it'll push OTK decks to come into the meta. And then when OTK decks show up to really force McDonald's Control out is when Rookie Rush and these lower the ground decks make a comeback and force you to. So I think we're going to see a nice rotation now based on the decks we're seeing here, which is going to make for a very interesting meta. And I'm really excited to see what the metagame breakdowns are going to look like in 2 to 3 weeks as we're getting ready to ramp up for the next set. There will be more tournaments. I'm looking forward to seeing what the breakdown is. With that said, guys, what do you guys think of the meta? What are you going to be running to combat this kind of format? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Hey, if you dislike it, thumbs down works too. If you want to catch more of my videos, we do deck profiles, breakdowns, all that jazz, then subscribe button's in the corner. And with that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one.